Hello, welcome everyone back to our English program on Oxymind Media Network. We will be having English discussion every Sunday, if you are not aware already, on various topics, but mainly on Tigray and especially currently what's going on in our land, Tigray, northern region of Ethiopia. If you're not familiar, we are currently about 170 days into what is a genocide. I'm your host, Alula Wuneh. And unfortunately, on a holy day like today, happy Palm Sunday for a lot of Orthodox, Tagaru, and people all over the world. We cannot truly enjoy a religious holiday such as today. Unfortunately, as I stated, we are 170 plus days into a genocide in our homeland conducted by I would not call him prime minister. He is fascist. He is not an elected leader. Abiy Ahmed, leader of Ethiopia, and also coordinated with Isaias Afwerki, dictator, warlord of Eritrea. And they have conducted a egregious man-made starvation on the people of Tigray. This is not on what they've alleged is this is an internal law and order conflict, essentially internal conflict, which they're describing as a law and order operation. But truthfully speaking, what this is clear. This is intentional devastation, intentional starvation on the people of Tigray, on the young women, on the young men, the old, the sick. Those are the people who are truly being affected and suffering currently at the hands of these two. I cannot call them human because people who act as such should be called as such, and they are not deserving of being called a person who is supposed to be something. A person, human being, has empathy and sympathizes with people. They don't show any of that, intentionally devastating the region and people all over the world, Tagaru, even Eritrean people all over the world who aren't in support of Isaias Afwerki, are holding protests, vigils, candlelight vigils, rallies all over the world in protest of what is going on and truly, who is paying the ultimate cost, as they say, is the people of Tigray, the people who are not politically affiliated, the people who are dying of starvation today, currently still, as everyone actually in the world is facing the COVID-19 pandemic, which we are more than a year through currently, which involves mask wearing, a lot of protective measures to ensure that we're not spreading a disease that we've never truly seen the likes of. And can you imagine what kind of COVID precautions are being done in in our war zone? This is no longer just a peaceful land that Tigray normally is. And not to mention that we truly have become devastated by this year, something we haven't seen in decades, which was a locust infestation this large, which truly just devastates the region because it eats their crops. And a lot of the people of Tigray rely on this to feed themselves, but also for business as well. And this all combined together is devastating the people of Tigray, and is an atrocity. And there are so many war crimes occurring in the region, which many agencies, news, broadcast corporations, which are accredited and have sources to back up their claims, are reporting on, although many of the people who seem to be almost impossible to be pro-genocide, but many people are pro-genocide, are claiming there are lies spread by these independent organizations don't have a reason to necessarily lie. But we can go down the line and kind of explain and show what's going on currently in Tigray so that we can at least have proof behind what we're saying. So to begin, we can look at what the people of in these independent agencies that I'm talking about, these news broadcasts are showing. So I'll start with this article right here is on the website for Doctors Without Borders, which is a humanitarian NGO, meaning they're a nonprofit operating all over the world. As you can see, it says Doctors Without Borders, meaning it's very literal what it means they do. And this is an article about a month ago, and only God knows what has occurred in the time being, but this is an example of what has been published and has proof to support what they're saying. This occurrence that they're talking about here is when they were on the road from Mekelle to Adigrat with 3 staff members traveling in clearly marked vehicle. This is not a political vehicle. This is not a whatever they're claiming in their law and order operation is their goal. This is a clearly marked vehicle. It's not a military vehicle. And as they're traveling down, there's 2 public transport minibuses driving behind, right? And essentially, they saw war crimes committed in front of them. Civilians, young men dragged off of the bus and killed point blank in front of them. In front of these staff members. Imagine what's going on behind the scenes. Imagine what is not being reported. These are the kind of things that are occurring on the ground. Another accredited, news organization, the New York Times, has an article here about the sexual violence that's pervading the region. It says rape is being used as a weapon, fighting rages in remote parts of Tigray, and all of Tigray, to be honest. And one woman's account here is, I'm sure a lot of Tagaru have seen it, but many people are not aware of truly the devastation that's occurring all over Tigray currently. The story of Mona Lisa, where, she's a young woman in her teens, I believe 18 estates here, and she was not raped, but they attempted to rape her, and she suffered 7 gunshot wounds and an amputated arm, which is unbelievable. A young woman who has nothing to do with what's going on the ground, other than being Tagaru. She tells you right here, this is ethnic cleansing. Soldiers are targeting Tigrayan women to stop giving birth to more Tigrayans. Listen to us, what she's telling you. Listen to what the news is showing you. You cannot convince someone who does not want to listen, to be honest. It's very sad what's occurring on the ground, and this is just the tip of the iceberg, if you will, of news that will continue to come out as various organizations all over the world, including government agencies, the United Nations, have come out and said that they're concerned, filled us with lots of statements about them being concerned. But at this point, concern can only get us so far. As you look at another article here, this is the AP, Associated Press, another accredited company in terms of publishing news and using credible sources. This is a devastating story of a woman in Tigray who died. The story of her husband who, in their village, she was giving birth in the midst of all of this, and he wanted to take her to a clinic to receive medical treatment, and he was afraid, so he didn't take her for over a week. And once he took her to the clinic, they refused to accept her, most likely because she is Tagalog, but perhaps because they're overwhelmed at the time. But regardless, the point being, there's not enough medical access, and she died right there, leaving him 2 young sons just born. These are the stories we're talking about. These are the facts of the ground. And unfortunately, as I stated, a lot of the world is telling us that they are concerned, that they are truly close to having to do something, but we need action. But unfortunately, it doesn't seem to be that it's going to occur right now, as there's another article here by the writers. Sorry, they have presented another article where they're talking about how Abiy Ahmed, the warlord, warmonger, the person who is targeting his own region, his own civilians, people he's supposed to be ensuring the safety of, the claimed law and order operation, which is targeting them, he has removed all law and removed all order from, is receiving a loan. Most parts of the world, I think the banks don't give loans to criminals for the most part, because they are not reliable to pay back their loan, and they don't deserve to be financed. But unfortunately, that does not seem to be the case with Abiy Ahmed. He's received $900 million loan. I think it shows you in this article about 700 million of it was an actual loan, and 200 million is a grant. Basically, he's not going to have to pay that back, and it's supposed to be to help improving access to financing, fight against COVID-19, and electricity investment. But it's hard to imagine much of these dollars will actually reach the people of Tigray, as they are facing a foreign entity in their country. The Eritrean troops, who are devastating, looting, raping, alongside Ethiopian federal forces, Amhara militia forces, which have to be also acknowledged for their part of the war crimes that are occurring on the ground. And as we continue, unfortunately, for the past 5 months, we have not received proof that the Eritrean troops were in Tigray, except for everyone reporting on it. They just denied and denied and denied and said it was lies and propaganda. But here we find ourselves with an admission that they are in Tigray, but they'll be leaving. Come to find out, a week later, the liars have lied again. There's no proof of Eritrean troops exiting Tigray. The crisis is worsening. This is from the UN's top humanitarian official, warning the conflict is not over, and a vast majority of Ethiopian region, Tigray, is completely or partially inaccessible for aid agencies. What is going on the ground, Abiy Ahmed? Can you answer for your civilians? How are the people of Tigray still not receiving aid? You said the war was over. The TPLF, the TDF are like flower in the wind, he said himself, his own words. They were gone, he said. This is in November. He's speaking about the people he's claiming this law and order operation was targeting. But yet we find ourselves almost in the first week of May, and still of 2021, we still have not seen Eritrean troops leave the region. We still have not seen sufficient humanitarian access to for independent agencies, not for any political agency, not for the people he's targeting to be a ceasefire. That seems to be so far down the line and not an option that he's considering. But the people of Tigray are still being devastated as we speak. And a lot of what we're talking about here is the war crimes occurring in Tigray, correct? And so we need, for the past 5 months, we've asked for independent investigation into the war crimes, into the extrajudicial killings, mass killings, people being killed young men of Tigray being killed in mass and killed there's various videos of them being pushed over cliffs, or being, as I showed the article earlier for Doctors Without Borders, dragged off of buses and killed. This is not to mention the looting and the rapes that we also looked at an article of that. There's many war crimes, too many to count, humanitarian crimes against humanity that are occurring on the ground that have not been answered for. We've been speaking about, which I said, 5 months for independent investigation, which the United Nations was promising to try to push for. And what did we find out? The Ethiopian Human Rights Commission is trying to have a joint investigation with the United Nations. That's what they agreed to. This is an absolute joke and travesty, which brings us to another article. This picture right here, this article is about Daniel Bakala, who is the Ethiopian Human Rights Chief of the Ethiopian Human Rights Commission. And in this article, he details, in his own words, I don't have to put any words in his mouth, about the devastation that the people of Tigray are facing. He says it here. What is very shocking about Ethiopia's conflict is the brutality with which the killings happen. It's not just the killings, but the extent of the brutality, the level of brutality. And as someone who is the Ethiopian Human Rights Commission's chief, he is responsible for investigating and denouncing atrocities. But in this article, from his own words, he says he does not have the means to do his job. He complains here with a small budget of $100 million, 2.4, which equals about $2.4 million, allocated by Parliament, which is a hand of Abiy Ahmed. They work for him essentially. He says, can you imagine what it's like doing the Ethiopian human rights work with less than $3 million a year? It is a complete joke. That's the reality in Ethiopia. He is admitting he cannot do his job. He states later in this article that they don't have doctors, they don't have forensics, they don't have what they need to do their job. Imagine what we're talking about here is you are asking the United Nations to do a joint investigation with you, but you don't have the means to do your job. Why would the United Nations need help by an agency that works underneath the man who's perpetrating these crimes on his own people? Imagine, and you don't have the resources to actually do your job. What is your use in this investigation? It's a difference to state you will help and assist in any way possible to help the people of Tigray by investigating these crimes and helping the United Nations to do so. But it's different to force and to demand a co-investigation when you cannot, by your own words, in this article we read, do not have the means to conduct such. This is what the people of Tigray have been facing for 5 months. Just lies on top of lies and no support from the government of Ethiopia, obviously, because they are conducting these war crimes in that, as I stated, with foreign powers, with weapons, drones that are coming from other countries that don't have troops on the ground, but are supplying drones that are killing civilians, not soldiers. Let's not mince words. What's happening on the grounds? On the ground, what's happening is they're using drones in highly populated civilian areas. This is a war crime. That's a war crime, period. There's no argument. You cannot use drones in highly populated civilian areas. This is just one small part and parcel of what's going on the ground, what they are doing to the people of Tigray to devastate the region, because Abiy Ahmed has made it clear what his agenda is. Regardless of who his political enemies are, whatever list he posted about, I think, under 100 people that he's targeting when he began this law and order operation. Where are these people? Who are you actually conducting this to arrest or to stop? The people of Tigray are paying the ultimate price. That's what's happening on the ground. Regardless of any lies that have been stated since, there's they're telling you there's no chance Eritrea will leave by themselves. This has to be verified. We need to see proof that they are leaving Tigray. When are they leaving? It took them how many months to admit that they were on the ground? It took 5 months for them to admit that they were fighting in Tigray, that they were looting in Tigray, that they were burning civilian crops, another war crime, another crime against humanity that is occurring on the ground. How many more months will it take for them to admit they're not leaving Tigray? Think about that. That's what we need to continue to do. Put pressure all around the world, as so many Tegaru have done. As I stated, they're doing protests, they're doing candlelight vigils, they're doing rallies, they're doing a lot of social media campaigns that they need to be applauded for, because the bottom line here is, no matter what you believe, you should not believe that a genocide is okay, that people deserve to die at the hands of political gameplay, essentially. These are the facts. And all people should have sympathy and empathy for the women of Tigray that are being raped daily, the young men of Tigray that are being dragged out, who have no hand of being even in part of TDF, who are living as civilians and being killed, victimized. Commit so many war crimes are occurring on the ground. We have to continue, as I stated, putting pressure on world leaders to denounce what's going on, to not support dictators, people who refuse to have elections, these kind of things. These people have no intention of showing compassion for the people of Tigray. That's been clearly stated so many times already. So the question is, do we sit back idly and wait for Isaias Afwerki, someone who's shown no remorse over the past 5 months, but honestly, since he's taken his power in Eritrea over the past 30 years? Or do we continue to voice? We have to speak, it's clear. So, if none of these sources can convince some of these people with information, don't waste your breath. Let's focus on speaking out for our people, the voice for the voiceless on the ground, the people of Tigray who have nothing to do with this, aside from their identity, from their ethnicity. And as I stated, we've shown so many sources today alone, but there's so many more out there that they can see. Do not, kind of engage in this vitriol and hate speech and fighting with people who don't need to waste they don't deserve your time. These people are just acting naive so that it continues to devastate the people of Tigray as we argue about semantics. The facts are rape, extrajudicial killings of civilians, wrong. Droning in highly populated areas, wrong. Just to claim you are being pursuing democracy when you don't have elections, when you don't have an intention to have free elections without imprisoning large portions of your country's opposition leaders, it's clear who is on the side of subjugating people, on the side of committing war crimes and devastating people. It's clear. So thank you for joining us on our English broadcast, Oxymind Media Network. I'm your host, Alula Wuneh. Every Sunday we'll come with a program discussing what's going on the grounds in Tigray, or what's going on around the world for the Tigray youth that are conducting so many projects and protests in terms of what's going on the grounds currently, but also what they're doing is building infrastructure for Tigray youth to connect and to be able to empower each other and not to engage in some of the negative things that are going on all over the world currently. So thank you for joining us again. We'll be back next Sunday with another discussion, and I look forward to seeing you guys soon. Thank you.